You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tehan. In addition to this show, I write for the PackersPost.com and Cheesehead TV. Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, my favorite time of the year, playoff time. But before we get to that, how about a word from our sponsor?
Yeah, let's talk about TicketKing.com, Wisconsin's own Ticket King for over 30 years. Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans. You can find them on the web at TheTicketKing.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. For direct links to specific Packer game tickets, go to PackersTalk.com/tickets or browse their website at TheTicketKing.com. If you're following with us live on YouTube, thank you so much. You can see the link right there on your screen, PackersTalk.com/tickets or TheTicketKing.com. And also, you can watch every episode of No Huddle Radio with Gil and myself at Packers Talk Network on YouTube. Click on the bell, turn the notifications on. You can join the discussion, chat with us live. We love to see you and talk about the comments coming our way. If you have any predictions for Sunday, if you have any hot takes for Sunday, hey, maybe you'll be that we'll read it on air. So yeah, hit YouTube, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, everybody.
Oh boy, yeah, but hard to believe that the regular season is over, and wow, it's playoff time, and it doesn't start with an easy opposition, that's for sure.
No, and it doesn't start with an easy task either, and just an easy scenario in general, where obviously the Packers are going to Philadelphia. They're playing at the Philadelphia Eagles. They opened against the Eagles this year, but it was in Brazil, so it was on a neutral site. But the quarterback position got a little shaky in that regular season finale on Sunday, Gil. Jordan Love left with that elbow injury. It looked like he hit the funny bone, but it looked like he had some trouble gripping the football during the game. Malik Willis then hurt his thumb on, I believe, that touchdown, the last touchdown of the game for the Packers. And now the question is, what should we expect at quarterback for Green Bay on Sunday? Good news is that both Love and Malik Willis were both full participants in practice on Thursday for the Packers. But what should we expect? Should we expect Love to be 100%, or this is playoffs? Maybe he's not even close to that.
Yeah, he may not be close to 100%, and maybe the only sort of news that cancels that out to an extent is that Jalen Hurts has missed the last couple of games with a concussion, so he may be rusty as well, and that may affect, how sharp he is in this game. What I expect, to be honest with you, is the Packers to say as little as possible between now and Sunday. And I think barring a huge setback, Love is going to start. And then we're going to see how he is once the game actually gets underway.
And I'll say this, from my football experience, guess what? When we had injuries or guys who were questionable to play, we didn't want that news getting out. We didn't. Right. And luckily, I only played at the high school level. Luckily, there's no betting odds in high school football. So nobody needed to know that. That didn't need to be public at all whatsoever. But hey, this is the NFL. This is pro sports. There's betting odds that have to be made and all that stuff and everything. So you got to know always what's going on at quarterback. But obviously the Packers, they're taking the right approach and just being as mum about this as possible. You never know. Love could be totally good to go 100%, and they come out throwing the ball like crazy, or has a nerve issue maybe in that elbow where that was the only concern of mine, Gil, was, the only reason I thought maybe it wasn't precautionary. I think it was more precautionary in that Sunday regular season finale, but him not being able to grip the ball, that could be a nerve issue. And that is something that is just that could be a problem. And I hope that doesn't flare up again. But that's something that's kind of worrisome on my end.
Yeah, because those things are tricky. They don't go away so fast.
Yeah.
And, one hit in the wrong spot, you aggravate it and you're back to square one or maybe even worse. So, the good news is that I think the Packers have a lot of confidence in Malik Willis. Yeah. The bad news is you want your starting quarterback at as close to 100% as you can get it when it's win or go home.
And Malik Willis has a thumb issue on his throwing hand too. That could be a problem if they want to throw the ball with Malik Willis. And I'm very confident if Malik Willis does have to to get in there for a couple plays or so. If he does have to relieve Love, hopefully, knock on wood, Love is okay and everything like that. But Malik Willis, I feel good about. The only thing is obviously he's the backup, and the thumb issue could be a concern at the backup spot too.
Yeah. Now I have a question, and to me, I think we're going to learn something on Saturday. Do the Packers elevate Sean Clifford as a precaution?
Why not?
If they do, then that means they're concerned about at least one of the two quarterbacks for Sunday, or it's being really, really safe and precautionary. If they don't, boy, that opens it up to, okay, they're confident that both guys are ready to go.
Why not? Yeah, why not? Just and make Philly prepare for everything. And it doesn't hurt, because you saw a few years ago when Philly hosted the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and Brock Purdy went down, and then I believe their backup quarterback was Josh Johnson at the time, but whoever their backup was, he went down as well, and the Niners are screwed. They only had two quarterbacks active for that NFC Championship game. You don't want to be in that same situation if you're the Green Bay Packers either. So you might as well promote them just in case. I guarantee you everything's going to be okay, but you also have some open roster spaces as well, and I think that's a good segue right here, Gil, where we have some open roster spots because Christian Watson obviously tore his ACL in that regular season finale. He had the left knee bruise coming into that game. He was questionable to play, but it was the right knee that he tore the ACL in on a non-contact injury. Just a huge bummer for a guy who just plays his butt off and he approaches things the right way. He's been the center point of a lot of criticism with his injury and health issues his first couple of years, but the hamstring issues seem to be behind him. He actually played 15 games this year, but it's just a tough break for Christian Watson, who obviously you lose him for this season. You may lose him for most of next season too. How do you replace a guy like Christian Watson, Gil?
The cliche is next man up. It's a team game. Everybody's going to have to contribute. There's a reason that these are cliches, I think.
Yeah.
And I actually did an article about this for the Packers Post earlier in the week. I cited 5 players who need to step up. It is not going to be one guy. I mean, it may be one guy in one particular game where the matchup is favorable, but to me, you're going to need to see probably Luke Musgrave do something downfield, I think, to replace some of the downfield threat that Christian Watson is. Dontavian Wicks, I think, has to step up. And can we please see first half of the season Jaden Reed again? I mean, really? Yeah. Just a little for one game? Because if you go back to the first 8-9 games of the season, Reed was on pace for like 78, 80 catches, getting the ball downfield. He scored 2 touchdowns against the Eagles in week 1, one receiving, one on the jet sweep / end around. We need to see a little bit more of that. And then obviously you have Malik Heath and Bo Melton, who will probably get some more reps, and maybe Matt LaFleur will have to scheme a few more things up to get players open. And that may not be a bad thing if we see the good Matt LaFleur out there calling plays on Sunday.
The thing is, the receiver group for Green Bay is very deep. We've talked about it all year long, where I like all the guys in that room. But the thing is, Christian Watson, I feel like, is the one guy you really couldn't lose, because he just takes so much attention away from the defense. He is they have a lot of vertical threat. They do have guys who can stretch the field vertically, but not like Christian Watson. I mean, that guy pulls defenders towards him. He is really that dynamic of a deep threat that it worries other teams, and it opens up the run game and everything like that. But we saw what Bo Melton could do last year at the end of last season and in the playoffs. He showed that he could be a contributor. We know if Dontavian Wicks, if the hands are working, the guy's open all the time. So he could be a big-time contributor too. Romeo Doubs, you kind of know what you're going to get with Romeo Doubs. But, yeah, I'm with you. Jaden Reed, though, we need first half Jaden Reed. He definitely has taken a step back recently. He had the fumble against Chicago in the regular season finale. It's just a lot of stuff, it seems like, going on with Jaden Reed negatively on the field. And hopefully he can wipe that clean the slate. It's a new season and everything. But I'm with you, though, also, where Luke Musgrave, I want to see what they do with him, because I feel like they've been ramping him up the last few weeks, and maybe they were disguising him, and maybe they were hiding him on purpose in hopes of unleashing him in the playoffs. You know what he can do. He's a fast guy. He's a big athletic guy. He's super speedy. Get that guy running down the seam. I feel pretty good about our chances. And if Love can hit that, if Musgrave can catch it, it's just a matter of can he stay on his feet or not, but maybe we'll see a lot of 2 tight end sets though. Maybe we lean a little more heavily into the run game. There's so many different ways that you could go about this. There's multiple ways to skin a cat, Gil, and there's multiple ways to get points on the board if you're the Green Bay Packer offense without Christian Watson.
No doubt about it. Now I'll take it a step further with Luke Musgrave. He may only play 15 snaps, but give me like 2 impact plays. Give me 2 situations where either he's schemed up or he makes a play on his own that either picks up a crucial 3rd down, is a splash play down the field, just creates an impact. He doesn't have to play, 80% of snaps. I don't think he's ready to play 80% of snaps, but make an impact when you're on the field.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting approach too. You got to hope that Matt LaFleur is really in his bag, as the kids like to say, going into that game on Sunday, and he really has a good game plan going forward. And remember last year in the playoffs, Christian Watson, that was in the Dallas game, the playoff game, that was his first game back, and he really wasn't on the field that often. Yet they put up 48 points at Jerry World, and that offense was so electric. They were so good. They were so explosive. Jordan Love was outstanding in that game. The receiving core was really great. I mean, Jordan Love had 3 incompletions in that game, and one of them was a drop by Kraft late in the game or something like that.
Yeah,
they really played good.
Lost him the perfect quarterback rating.
Yeah, exactly, and that was it. Where this offense is capable of doing big things even without Christian Watson. It's going to hurt to not have him out there, but it's not doable. You know what I'm saying?
It's not the end. They can still be productive. They can still get a lot done. Look, they were productive without him at times this year. Certainly last year when he was in and out of the lineup. Guys have to step up. And, right now, though, it's step up or go home.
And right now for the Packers, it is step up or go home. Some injury news to report real quick. Not practicing this week so far is safety Zane Anderson. He had the concussion in the Minnesota game, still in the concussion protocol. I have a feeling his season may be over. That was a pretty wicked looking concussion. Defensive tackle TJ Slayton's dealing with an ankle issue, but he reportedly told the media today that he expects to play on Sunday. So just could be a little bit of time just to get his ankle right before the real deal on Sunday. And then returning to practice, good news here. Linebacker defensive end Brenton Cox Jr., wide receiver Romeo Doubs, linebacker Quay Walker, and safety Evan Williams. All those guys did not play in the regular season finale. Hopefully more precautionary, but Quay Walker's missed the last 3 games. Evan Williams has missed the last 3+ games as well. Romeo Doubs was out with the illness against Chicago in that regular season finale. So there's some good injury news. It's not the end of the world, like you were saying, Gil. Zane Anderson obviously was surprisingly playing some pretty good football at safety. You hope you have Evan Williams because that safety room can't take any more hits right now.
You need one of them. You definitely need one of them. And, both of them played well. Evan Williams, I'm really high on his potential, and I was very pleasantly surprised by Zane Anderson. I mean, he's always been a special teams ace, but he doesn't have a lot of experience on defense, and boy, did he play well.
Yeah, he did his job. I think that was it. And that's all he was asked to just do your job. And he did pretty well in that spot. Now let's get to it. The Packers against the Eagles. The Eagles, the NFC East champions at 14-3 this year. Really good football team. The Packers, fortunately, have already seen them. They lost 34-29 down in Sao Paulo, Brazil in the season opener for these teams. Green Bay's offense, 5th ranked total offense in football. Philly's defense, well, they're pretty impressive. The 1st ranked total defense, the top ranked total defense in all the NFL. Green Bay's offense this year averaging 27 points per game. That's 8th in the league. They're the 12th ranked passing attack and the 5th ranked rushing attack. Philly's defense, well, they're only allowing opponents to score 17.8 points per game. That's 2nd in the NFL, just behind the LA Chargers. 174.2 passing yards per game. That's tops in the NFL. And 104.2 rushing yards per game. That's 10th in the league. Gil, this is a really good defensive unit. This is a much improved defensive unit from when the Packers saw these guys in week 1 down in Brazil. What's the matchup that we got to key on between the Packers offense and the Philly defense?
There are a bunch of them, but, I'll start with this one. The Packers offense runs through Josh Jacobs. And
yes, it
you've
does.
got to get that running game going, especially if both of your quarterbacks are not 100%. So to me, it's Josh Jacobs running against a very stout Eagles defense. You cited the entire front seven. I would even focus in maybe a little bit more where you have, the three interior linemen for the Packers, Josh Myers, Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan, basically battling with Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, and Jordan Davis in the middle of that Philadelphia line. But I can tell you right now, if the Packers can't get the running game going, this could be a very long day.
And yeah, obviously, Gil, my graphic is only so big. I can only put so much typing in there, but that Philly defensive line is deep. It's as deep as it gets. They always have it. Even though they lost Fletcher Cox to retirement, Brandon Graham, that stable, steady veteran for them, he's on season-ending IR for them, and yet they still are such a good defensive front. And that secondary, even though it's a young secondary, they got a couple rookies in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell who've had terrific seasons. Obviously, Packer fans are a little bit too familiar with Cooper DeJean. A guy that the Packers could have had if he was available in round one, but the Packers didn't select him, unfortunately. He's having a great year in Philly. But, hey, Green Bay's got some pretty good players from this rookie class, so I'm not going to complain too much. But, yeah, you talk about that, though, Gil, where the Packers' rushing offense has really got to be good to set the tone against this Philly defense where – in that first meeting, the Packers offense, they had 163 rushing yards. 33 of those rushing yards did come on a Jaden Reed rushing touchdown in that first game down in Brazil. But yeah, this offensive line and Josh Jacobs, they got to set the tone for sure right away. Where I remember in that first game, Josh Jacobs had a bit of a slow start, and then they got things going and things started to click pretty well for them. It's got to happen though sooner than that coming up on Sunday.
Yep, you got to start fast. I think starting fast is important in this game. It's going to set the tone. Both of these teams like to run the football. So if you take that away from one of these teams, you put yourself at a big advantage if you're the team that's ahead and the other team has to force passes and throw the ball almost all the time. So getting this running game going is important. But I'll say this on the plus side. Out of all the Packers, Josh Jacobs may be more inspired to be in a playoff game than almost anybody on this roster.
You're damn right. You're damn right, Gil. So I will say my matchup to look forward to, because the guy was an absolute killer in that first game on the Philly defense, and it's Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers, against Philly linebacker Zach Bond. Obviously, a lot of Packer fans are also Wisconsin Badger fans. They know Zach Bond very well. Very good linebacker when he played college football for the Badgers. He's a native of Brown Deer, Wisconsin, just outside the Milwaukee area. And Zach Bond had just a terrific game in that first meeting down in Brazil. He had 15 total tackles, a couple sacks, a couple QB hits, a tackle for loss. Bond this year in general had a great season. 151 total tackles. That was tied for sixth in the NFL. 11 tackles for loss. That was second on the team behind Jalen Carter. 3.5 sacks, 4 passes defended, and 5 forced fumbles. That also led the team. And I'm interested, Gil, to see how Matt LaFleur schemes the offense to get Zach Bond out of the game or put Zach Bond in a tough spot, because I feel like that guy is the key to making this Philly defense really go. Vic Fangio's done a terrific job in Philly in his first year as the Eagles defensive coordinator, longtime defensive coordinator who gave the Packers a lot of fits when he was in San Francisco and Chicago. And I'm interested to see what the game plan is for having an answer for Zach Bond on the Packer offense.
I hope it involves a lot of pre-snap motion.
Yes.
I think that will be a tell for the offense as to what the defense is and where Zach Bond is going to line up and how he's going to line up. That is one way that you get a half a step ahead of the defense, and I hope Matt LaFleur employs a lot of it on Sunday.
Philly's a good defense, man. I mean, I'm just reading the numbers real quick. Their defensive front, 41 sacks this year, tied for 13th in the NFL. Opposing passer rating is 82.5. That's third best in the NFL. They're only allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete 62.2% of their passes. That's sixth best in the NFL. They're also top 12 in interceptions with 13, and opposing rushing yards opposing runners are rushing for 4.3 yards per carry. That's tied for ninth best in the NFL as well. The Packers are going to have they're going to have their hands full for sure. But hey, Dallas had a pretty good ranked defense last year under Dan Quinn, who is now a head coach of Washington. They still put up 48 and look like they could do whatever they want against that defense. Who knows what happens this time around?
Yeah, they got to go for it. Look, the Packers scored 29 points against an Eagles defense that allowed only 17 per game for the rest of the season. Bring it. Let's go.
Yeah, these are two good units too. And also two other good units. Well, let's flip it real quick. The Philadelphia offense and the Green Bay defense. Philadelphia's total offense, 8th highest ranked team in football this year on that side of the ball. Green Bay's total defense, 6th overall in the NFL. Outstanding work by Jeff Hafley and company in Jeff Hafley's first year in charge of the defense in Green Bay. Philly's offense averaging 27.2 points per game, 7th in the league. Passing yardage, this is kind of surprising, Gil. They're only averaging about 187.9 passing yards per game. That's 29th in the NFL. The rushing attack, though, is phenomenal. 179.3 rushing yards per game, 2nd in the league. Green Bay defensively, allowing opponents to only score 19.9 points per game, 6th in the NFL. 215.2 passing yards per game, that's 13th, and 99.4 rushing yards per game. That is 7th in the NFL. Much improved unit on the Packers side. Obviously, for Philly, compared to last year, a huge upgraded running back. And Gil, I have a feeling that's kind of the matchup that we're looking forward to, is that stud running back they have in Philadelphia. You may have heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I start. Saquon Barkley against the Packers' run defense. And boy, oh boy, we're going to need a big game from Edgerrin Cooper in this one. But Barkley, 2,005 yards. That's 125.3 yards per game, 13 rushing touchdowns, and an average of almost 6 yards per carry.
Yeah.
He can also catch passes out of the backfield just to add a little extra juice. 33 catches, 274 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. Barkley probably would have broken the single season rushing record had he played in week 18.
Oh, he would have. Oh, yeah.
They opted to sit him, which was probably wise, even though I know Barkley was disappointed. To me, you got to contain Barkley because you're not going to stop him. So the question becomes taking away the big play, taking away the key gain at the right time, and then forcing the Eagles into must-pass situations. Edgerrin Cooper, 8 tackles for loss in the last 4 games, just named NFC Defensive Player of the Month. So him being healthy and being ready for this game, and also having Quay Walker back because he's fast. You got a lot more speed in the middle. Got to find a way to slow down, not going to stop, but contain Saquon Barkley.
And Saquon Barkley historically is a Packer killer, even when he was with the Giants and how terrible of an offense they had. Saquon Barkley still found his way against Green Bay's defense. And I put on the graphic on the stream right here, Saquon Barkley against Edgerrin Cooper specifically, because in that first game in Brazil, Barkley had 24 carries, 109 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He also had 2 catches for 23 yards and a receiving touchdown. But Edgerrin Cooper only played 11 total defensive snaps in that first game. Now, he did have a limited training camp, but Edgerrin Cooper, outside Xavier McKinney, has been the Packers' best defensive player this year. And that's pretty much on a limited snap count. And I have a feeling that this is where they're going to glue in Cooper on Barkley. And this is the matchup I think that's worth watching, is between Saquon Barkley and Edgerrin Cooper. Saquon Barkley having a historically great season in his first year with the Eagles. But Edgerrin Cooper, the Eagles didn't really get to see him in week 1. And I have a feeling Edgerrin Cooper is going to get a lot more snap counts than he did in the first game, and they're going to have quite the plan for him in Green Bay. So it's just going to be an exciting matchup to see these two guys, 2 dynamic football players on each side of the field going at each other.
Yeah, should be a good one. And again, just don't let Barkley beat you. I think that's the bottom line. Don't let Saquon Barkley beat you in this game.
So much easier said than done.
Yes, it is. I can say it easily.
He is a terrific human being. He is a damn good football player. I just wish we didn't have to see him again this year. I really do. So he's such a handful. But the other matchup that I want to look at, though, Gil, it's quarterback Jalen Hurts against Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. Obviously, I just talked about Matt LaFleur on offense. I want to talk about Jeff Hafley on defense. In that first meeting, Hurts, it was kind of sloppy. I mean, it was sloppy in general that first game. That's how week 1 is. It's usually a crapshoot. But Hurts threw 2 of his 5 interceptions in that first game. Also had a couple fumbles. He lost a fumble. went 20 of 34, 278 yards, threw a couple touchdowns, but he was really held in check in the running game. Only 13 carries for 33 yards. His longest rush was 8 yards, had an 80.3 passer rating. Philly only averaged about 5.5 yards per play, 4 of 14 on third down. And the thing is with Jalen Hurts, he's got 18 passing touchdowns, 14 rushing touchdowns this year. He last played, like we mentioned before, on December 22nd. He threw 4 passes before leaving that game at Washington due to concussion. He returned to practice on Wednesday. He was a full participant on Thursday. It's trending towards that he's going to play in the game on Sunday. But I'm hoping that Jeff Hafley can scheme a defense where he's going to try to make Jalen Hurts beat the Packers.
Yeah.
Go all out on Saquon Barkley and try to make Jalen Hurts beat you, because I feel like that is the recipe to possibly pull off the upset on Sunday.
And I'll take it a step further. He's got to beat you with his arm.
Yes.
And the Packers defense this season, knock wood, because going into this season, it's been a problem for years. They've actually done a very good job of keeping mobile quarterbacks from running all over them. Like, how many times in the past decade before 2024 did we see mobile quarterbacks slice and dice through the Packers defense, even in playoff games? I don't
Too many times.
say the name that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
But, they gotta force Jalen Hurts to win this game with his arm. And again, as we said earlier, he hasn't played since December 22nd, where he only played a handful of snaps. Make his timing, make his throwing arm be the thing that beats you. If they can do that, they've got a much better chance of winning this football game.
Yeah, there's a chance there's some good rust there. And then also his top receiver, A.J. Brown, he's dealing with a knee issue as well. He supposedly left practice on Wednesday with a trainer. And in that first game, A.J. Brown had a huge impact. 5 catches, 119 yards, had a 67-yard touchdown. He's reportedly also had issues in the locker room and issues with Jalen Hurts specifically. So that's something, too, where the passing game could be potentially a little bit off in Philadelphia, and that could play right into the Packers' hands. You just got to try to make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. It sounds like, though, Brooks Cabana of The Athletic, he's the beat reporter for The Athletic for the Philadelphia Eagles, reporting that Brown will be good to go for Sunday. It's all part of the Eagles' plan to ramp him up for Sunday's game. And then I'll also say this, too. Hopefully Jeff Hafley's got a better plan against the screen game for the Philadelphia Eagles, because the screen game just seems like a big issue for the Packers defense. They just can't find a way to defend it properly. They better have that figured out going into Sunday's game, too.
Yeah, because if you're an offensive coordinator and you know Jeff Hafley is throwing different blitz patterns at you, screen game is a great thing, because if you guess right and you throw to the right side, you line up 2 or 3 blockers, you can get an escort for a very big gain depending on where those blitzers are coming from.
It was feast or famine, it seemed like, for the Packers, that regular season finale on Sunday against the screens of the Chicago Bears, where they throw a lot, where DJ Moore had a touchdown and another big catch and run because of a couple screen plays, but then the Packers stuffed a few screens. They even forced a fumble on the final screen of the game for the Chicago Bears in that game. So it's just a matter of they got to button that up. It's and just be a little more consistent. I don't like the feast or famine stuff, because one big play in the playoffs, and that could really open the floodgates, per se, for the home team. Now let's go over some key stats real quick before we get to some predictions and some trivia to wrap up today's show. Turnover ratio this year, Packers plus 12. That's tied for 3rd best in the league this year. Eagles right behind them at plus 11, 6th best overall. Penalties, Green Bay, 112 penalties in offense this year, tied for 10th most in the league. The defense, 114 penalties, tied for 12th most. Philly, well, they're pretty disciplined when it comes to penalties. On offense, 103 penalties this year, tied for 11th fewest, and only 85 penalties on defense this year, tied for 2nd fewest. A really, really disciplined unit on that side of the ball. Third down, Green Bay's offense, 39.5%. That's tied for 14th. On defense, 37.5%, 12th best in the league. Philadelphia's offense, 41.7% on offense, 10th best in the league. And the defense, 35.6%. That's tied for 3rd best. Philly gets off the field on 3rd down defense typically. That's a good thing for Philly. Red zone touchdown percentage. Green Bay's offense this year, 59.4%. That's 10th best in the NFL. Remember, they are only 1 for 4 in the red zone in that opener in Brazil. Obviously, a lot better since then for the Packers offense. Green Bay's defense, 60% on defense, 20th in the league. Philadelphia's offense, 57.4% in the red zone on offense, 13th in the NFL. And then the defense, only 50% on defense, tied for 5th best in the league. Really a lot of good stuff for Philly. You can see why Philly is 14-3 this year because the stats don't lie. They're disciplined. They play really good football on third down, and they make sure they keep opposing offenses out of the end zone in red zone possessions.
Yeah, basically they don't beat themselves.
Correct. That plain and simple. That's correct. Only 15 giveaways this year for the Eagles on offense too. That's tied for 6th fewest in the NFL. And then real quick injury news for the Eagles. Wide receiver A.J. Brown dealing with that knee. He's also listed with veteran rest. He hasn't been practicing this week. Expected to go on Sunday. Quarterback Jalen Hurts, as you said, as we were talking about earlier, dealing with that concussion. He's been practicing, though, in a limited capacity on Wednesday. He was a full participant on Thursday. Also listed with a finger issue. And then for the Eagles on the IR includes veteran quarter James Bradbury, defensive end Brandon Graham, and wide receiver Britton Covey. So some key injuries there. Obviously, this is football. There's key injuries on the Packers side too, with no Jair Alexander, no Christian Watson as well. But the Eagles are dealing with stuff as well.
Yeah. Look, at this time of year, after you've played 17 regular season games in 18 weeks, nobody's body feels great. So it's just a question of how injured each player is, what they can play through, and how well they can play.
Who manages it better pretty much in the end. And real quick, we were talking about Xavier McKinney earlier. He was actually named to the NFLPA's All-Pro team. Huge accomplishment for him. That's voted on by active players. Registered 85 total tackles, 8 interceptions, which is second in the NFL, most by a Packer since Charles Woodson registered 9 in 2009. He recorded an interception in each of his first 5 games this season, the first player to accomplish that since the 1970 merger, all in his first year in Green Bay. And the guy's only 24, 25 years old. Sky's the limit for the guy, but heck of an honor for Xavier McKinney and a well-deserved honor for him too.
Absolutely. Congratulations to him. And it was great to see him get another interception too. I mean, that was sort of the icing on the cake for the season for him.
Keenan Allen can always say, I threw an interception to Xavier McKinney. I don't know if he wants to brag about that, but
I can't say that. So yeah,
it's a unique sentence. So Gil, why does Green Bay win on Sunday?
Green Bay wins if they prevent big plays and if they cut out the self-inflicted errors. I think that is the biggest thing. Contain Saquon Barkley, prevent big plays in the passing game, and do not beat yourself with penalties and turnovers.
I'm with you on all that. I'm just going to add capitalize in the red zone. When you have red zone possessions, capitalize. Remember, they had they forced 3 turnovers in that opener in Brazil, and they got 9 points off of those 3 turnovers. That ain't going to cut it this time. That's not. It's not. You got to turn those turnovers into touchdowns on the other end. Gil, why does Green Bay lose?
Green Bay loses if they go back to the self-inflicted wounds with the penalties and the just dumb, the drops, the penalties, the dumb decisions that unfortunately we saw a few of last week. And also if the big plays just keep racking it up for Philadelphia. Oh yeah. And don't lose the turnover battle.
Yeah, big time. Green Bay is the youngest team in the NFL. They're the second youngest team to make it to the playoffs since 1970, or in the last 45 years, second youngest to last year's Packer playoff team. Where if they look like a young football team and they play like a young football team, they're going to lose like a young football team, plain and simple. Gil, what's your prediction for Sunday?
I think this one goes down to the wire, much like week 1 did. I think that, playing in Philadelphia, we won't be playing on an ice rink like we were in Brazil. Nope. So that'll be at least hopefully the footing will be consistent. But I just think at the end of the day, you hit it on the nose that we're talking about a situation where this is the second youngest team. Green Bay just finds, I don't think they know how to win big games yet. They are 0-5 this year against the elite teams that they've had to play in the NFC. All the games except one were 1-score games. They've all been close. I just think they have to still learn how to win a little bit more. I give a slight edge to Philadelphia, 34-31, and the game will be in doubt in the last minute.
Yeah, that's the thing is this Packers team is so talented, and it's not like they're getting blown out. Their biggest loss this year was by 10 points against Detroit. They've been in every single game this year, and that is so encouraging, especially given the fact that they are the youngest team in football right now. But it's a matter of where last year was such a pleasant surprise where they were the youngest team in football. No one expected that. We were in talks for the top 5 pick last year, early in the season. And they get to the playoffs. They thump the Cowboys in that playoff opener. They almost pull off a victory against the eventual NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. And the expectations have been so much higher this year. But the Packers are still a team going through growing pains because they're still the youngest team in football, and they're still building this. And I just think the Eagles are a little better right now. And I'm with you, Gil, where I don't think they know how to win these close games right now against the truly elite teams in the NFL. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be tight. But the Packers fall and the Eagles move on. They win 24-20, but it's going to be a nail biter in Philly. And I think fans in Philly are going to be a little more frustrated about this game afterwards than Packer fans may be.
Well, look, I want Detroit. So let's hope we can get past Philly and have a rematch with the Lions, but obviously one step at a time. And this is going to be one heck of a challenge for this Green Bay team. Hopefully they are equal to the task.
And who knows, if they get that win against them, that just means they were due. That means they were due for a big win against a good team this year. Gil, what articles do you have coming up on Packers Post and Cheesehead TV leading up to the playoff opener?
Well, I talked about the 5 players who need to step up, as that was on Packers Post. But for Cheesehead TV, I talked about how this year's Packers team is better than last year's Packers team. Mm-hmm. And yet the vibe surrounding the team this year is just not as good as it was a year ago entering that playoff game against Dallas. Last year, it was like they had nothing to lose. They were playing their best football down the stretch. Everything just seemed very positive. And I spelled out some of the reasons why there's a little less positivity around this team right now, even though I think they are a better team than they were a year ago.
Growing pains, man. It's just it's growing pains.
Not linear, right? Growth is not linear.
That is 100% correct. Hopefully they show a lot of growth on Sunday. But, Gil, you ready for some trivia?
I am ready.
All right. So, Packers rookie linebacker Edgerrin Cooper. This guy already looks like a superstar in the NFL, and he has the league's attention. On Thursday, as Gil mentioned earlier, Cooper was named the NFL's Defensive Rookie of the Month for December and January after he registered 30 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections, a sack, an interception, recovering 1 fumble in 4 games. Gil, before Cooper earned the Rookie of the Month honors on Thursday, who was the last Packer and the last Packer defensive player to be named NFL Rookie of the Month? 2 players. Last Packer to be named NFL Rookie of the Month and last Packer defensive player to be named NFL Rookie defense.
Not the same player.
Correct.
Okay.
So, think one's on offense, one's on defense. I'll put it that way.
On offense, I'm going to go with Christian Watson.
That is correct.
Did it against Dallas, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that was the Dallas game helped him get the award, essentially. Yes.
Right. The regular season Dallas game was like his breakout game, and he had a nice streak after that one. So, yes. Defense, that is going to be a lot tougher, let me think.
Yes, it is. He had a really, really good rookie year, and then his play just really spiraled out, and he didn't last as long in Green Bay as we thought he would.
Josh Jackson.
Not Josh Jackson, no. So Christian Watson, November 2022, and Demarius Randall in November of 2015. Now, before Cooper, the last Packer to be named Rookie of the Month was Watson back in November 22. After some struggles early in his rookie season, Watson started to hit his stride in November that year. 4 games, he caught 14 passes for 289 yards, scored 6 touchdowns. And then the last Packers defensive player to be named Rookie of the Month was safety Demarius Randall back in November 2015. The former first-round pick defended 5 passes, registered 25 tackles, and 2 interceptions in 5 games that month. Randall, remember, he had such a promising rookie season before later being traded to the Cleveland Browns for picks and former backup quarterback DeShone Kizer. That's a legendary name right there for you in Packer lore. DeShone Kizer.
Yes.
So, yeah, that was like, I couldn't believe. I remember Demarius Randall. My buddy bought a Demarius Randall jersey because he looked like an absolute star. But it seemed like there were some locker room issues there, and that was near the end of the McCarthy tenure, too. So I think there was just a lot of factors that went into that.
Unfortunately, because he did show a lot of promise early on.
Yep. And then, again, the Packers, the 7th-seeded Packers in the NFC, facing the 2nd-seeded Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. Rematch of the regular season opener. Eagles looking to take care of business at home where they've only lost one game this year, and that was by 1 point. Packers looking to play Cinderella again as the NFC 7th seed and pull off the upset and another NFC East opponent for the second straight year. Kickoff from Lincoln Financial Field in the city of brotherly love, set for 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central. I know last couple of weeks they've been tough for the Packers, but let's just go into this game as fans with an open mind, hope they can pull off the upset, and let's hope we're getting ready for a rematch with Detroit in the Motor City.
It is not that far-fetched. Even though I didn't pick them to win, it is not far-fetched. This is going to be a really close game.
Packers, prove me wrong, man. Prove Dale and I wrong. That's all we want. We want to look stupid. We want to look stupid on here. Plain and simple.
Yeah, make us look bad, please.
Hashtag keep us stupid.
Oh,
trademark.
All right. Well, that's it for today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at GoPackers and at GoPackGo on all things Packers, or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackerssean@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and click the bell so you get notified when we drop a new episode. Big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show, and thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.